At least 4 Canadian cities are waiting on pins and needles for the announcement, which will win the contract to house what's being called the NATO Bank, a new international financial institution formerly called the Defence, Security and Resilience Bank, or the DSRB. It's a huge boost to Canada's stance in NATO.
It's a testament to Canada's reputation, Canada's commitment, Canada's financial expertise.
Modeled after the World Bank, founding members like Canada would be shareholders, allowing allied governments to borrow for national defense priorities. While Canada has won the contract to house this new institution, which city will win the location?
This is a process that the whole country is going through, and the Prime Minister will have to make a decision.
Frontrunners at this point include Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Vancouver, and the knives are out.
There's only one city in Canada that can truly provide everything the bank needs, and that city is Toronto, backed by Team Ontario, backed by all the other cities surrounding the city of Toronto and Ontario. The bank needs a host city that is one of the largest financial hubs in North America.
Ford also brought up Quebec's separation as a possible strike against Montreal's bid, something that didn't go over well with the feds.
Toronto reportedly is saying that the possibility of a referendum should be a factor in which city is chosen.
You don't expect me to. And full points for trying. Look, I get it. I'm not going to comment on any of that.
This bank headquarters represents the possibility of up to 3,500 new jobs in finance, specialized research, and analysis.
But not all major European countries support this project. Germany will not back the bank, believing defense financing should be run through current European Union ways. And the United Kingdom is reportedly concerned the DSRB might not meet the UK's bar of value from defense spending. Joining us now is Professor Philippe Bourbeau from the HEC Montreal Business School. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the DSRB won't be like a regular bank, but more like the World Bank. Now, it seems to me that's a clarification that goes over most people's heads. So maybe you could take a crack at explaining what that really means.
With pleasure. Well, first, it's not really a bank in the sense that this is not a TD bank or a Royal Bank at all. This is not a private bank. The whole purpose of the bank is not necessarily to make money out of it. The purpose of the bank, and you can call it an international institution, perhaps would be more appropriate in a way. But the purpose of the bank is to help those small and medium-sized enterprise who do have a product but are missing, perhaps lacking a bit, the capital to move it forward, to shift gear up in terms of defense economy of the NATO countries and a bit beyond that.
So, and when you say they've got a product, we're talking everything from tanks to helmets and everything in between?
Well, it could be. It depends on the countries in a ways. A bunch of countries, including Indo-Pacific countries, which is important to mention. This is not only NATO countries. It's a bit beyond that. They realize and recognize that the private banks were not necessarily the best vehicle for these small and medium-sized enterprise to get access to capital at a lower rate, or a low rate anyway, to be able to participate in this huge move and opportunity in the economy of defense throughout. So it depends on different products, depending on, how do you define defense in each country. So Canada, for example, might have a wider, broader definition than, let's say, Germany in some ways.
What was it about Canada's pitch that we were chosen to host this institution, and did it come as a surprise in the community?
Well, yes and no. I would say not necessarily since the PM speech at Davos, which laid out very clearly the necessity of these types of institution, and therefore Canada has decided then, and it made it very clear to the world, but especially in those countries involved in the creation of the bank, that Canada was ready to become a leader or position itself as a leader in the world in that huge movement towards sovereignty, economy of defense, and all of these corollary that came with it in many ways. So was that a surprise? Yes and no. Less so in after Davos And within Canada, internally, domestically, if you want, not so much, in the sense that Canada has a unique opportunity now, a very wise chance to play a role in the international scene. And this might be one of them.
Does the fact that we're hosting this institution, does it raise our value within the world of NATO?
Oh, I think so, tremendously. Canada is raising the flag, is raising the hand, in the sense that Canada is there when there is either a problem or to present a solution. We are part of the future of the world, and in that sense, tremendous added value for Canada, and for Canadian in general as well. There's going to be multiple projects out of this bank. There's a lot of money in that bank, and I think Canadian will see a very clear added value, regardless of the cities in which it will, at the end of the day, be hosted within Canada.
The reality on the ground in Canada is one of scarcity, people doing less, more with less, rather. And there's been some grassroots pushback on this. Some people saying, don't spend more on defense, but more on other things like healthcare. What's your response to that?
It is true that there's going to be somewhat of a paradox between all the money that goes into defense and the price of butter that keeps rising, and not to mention gas. But these are two different things. First, Canada has a chance to, I would say, tell Canadians that defense is not only bazookas and tanks, just to take one perhaps simplistic answer or example. Defense is also cybersecurity. And every Canadian understand that when you log into your bank account, you want to make sure that it's protected very strongly. This is defense. This is the economy of defense. Quantum computing, it's economy of defense. Biomedical. We've been fairly lucky, to some say, that in COVID-19, we didn't have any biological weapon threat. We might not be as lucky in the future. This is economy of defense as well. That serves the purpose directly of the security of Canadians. So when you think about defense, I think Canada has a huge chance here to tell Canadians that defense is no longer, or not only, tanks and guns. It's way broader than this. And in that sense, it benefits everyone to invest in that domain. But the bank itself, it's not necessarily related with all that money that goes into the economy of defense in the Canadian context.
Professor, is the ultimate goal of this institution to speed up and possibly streamline military procurement?
Part of it. The biggest goal, well, the main objective and the main mission of the bank is to help those SMEs, small, medium-sized enterprise, that do find it difficult to get access to capital quickly and at a low rate. Private bank won't participate all that much into this because there's a lot of risk in that. Innovation, research and development, and traditionally private bank or major banks have been fairly reluctant to pour capital into this. The Bank on Defense, Security and Resilience will be there to make sure that it's kind of okay to take a little bit of risk in order to speed up perhaps, but also just to develop a product that otherwise would have been very difficult to get access to capital to develop it. And in that sense, innovation always starts from these kind of constraints. So for Canadians, just to relate to your previous question, Canadian would also benefit from these facilities at gaining capital, because at the end of the day, the product that will be developed might be as well used and instrumentalized for civil use. The GPS is the key example. Drones are one other example. Who knows, in 5 years from now, there might be a product that will come out of the support from the bank that we will all going to be using on our day-to-day basis.
Quick last question for you, Professor. We're all guessing when Ottawa will decide which city is going to be the host, but what's the potential timeline on this once it's decided?
Well, timeline is tough. They negotiated the chart of the bank in April and March and April. Everyone was expecting May and June so the city to be chosen. We don't really know. The key contenders right now are obviously Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Ottawa. Almost in that order to some extent for some people, but basically, cities as all of them have very clear advantages, when you compare them. In terms of timeline, my sense is that this is going to be decided before the summer, but who knows? It might be just in September.
Professor Bourbeau, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure to be with you.